Few topics create as much debate nowadays as parenting, especially when grandparents, parents, and young children all live under the same roof. One generation says children need discipline, the other says children need understanding. One says we were raised like this and we turned out fine. The other says maybe we survived it, but that doesn't mean it was ideal. And honestly, most families today are quietly trying to find a balance between these two worlds. Today's story is about one such family, and maybe while listening to it, you'll recognize pieces of your own home. It begins on a busy Monday morning. The Sharma household was exactly what most middle class homes look like: a little chaotic, a little noisy, and full of love, even when it didn't always look like it. There was Meera, a mother in her 30s. Her husband Raj worked long hours. Their 6-year-old son, Arav, had recently started school, and Raj's mother, Savitri, lived with them. Now, Savitri belonged to a different generation, a generation where parenting looked very different. Children listened, adults spoke, questions were limited, and rules were clear. And honestly, that's how most people raised children back then. No parenting books, no podcast, no discussions about emotional regulation. Children simply adjusted. One morning, Arav refused to wear his school shoes. Not because anything serious had happened, just one of those random childhood moments. I don't want these shoes. He sat on the floor with folded arms. Now, Savitri immediately said, "Stop this nonsense and wear them." Simple, direct. That was the parenting style she knew. But Meera sat beside Arav and asked, "What's bothering you?" Savitri looked surprised. Bothering him? He's 6. Meera smiled gently. Still, something must be bothering him. After a few minutes, Arav finally admitted, "Everyone says my shoes look old." And suddenly, the issue wasn't really about shoes anymore. It was about embarrassment, about fitting in, about emotions. Meera hugged him and said, "That must feel bad." Arav calmed down much faster than anyone expected. But after he left for school, the real conversation began. Savitri shook her head. In our time, children didn't get so much attention for every feeling. Meera laughed softly. "I know, Ma, but maybe feelings existed back then too." That sentence stayed in the room because honestly, both women had a point. As days passed, small parenting differences appeared everywhere. One evening, Arav accidentally spilled milk on the sofa. The milk spread quickly. The cushion was ruined. Savitri reacted instantly. "Arav, look what you have done." The little boy froze. You know that expression children get when they know they have made a mistake? That expression. Meera walked over calmly. "Arav, accidents happen." Then she handed him a cloth. "Come on, let's clean it together." Later that night, Savitri asked something many grandparents wonder nowadays. If you never scold him, how will he learn? And honestly, that's a fair question because many people misunderstand gentle parenting. They think gentle parenting means no boundaries, no discipline, no consequences. But that's not what Meera believed. The next day offered a perfect example. Arav refused to turn off cartoons when screen time ended. He argued, complained, negotiated. Now Meera didn't shout, but she also didn't give in. "I know you're upset," she said calmly, "but screen time is over." Arav cried. He wasn't happy. But the rule remained. And later, after he calmed down, life continued normally. That evening, Savitri watched quietly because something surprised her. Meera had been kind, but also firm. There was empathy, but there was still a boundary. And slowly, Savitri started observing more carefully. One afternoon, while folding clothes, she remembered her own childhood. And honestly, it wasn't easy. Her father was strict, very strict. Children respected him, but they were also afraid of him. She remembered hiding report cards, hiding mistakes, hiding emotions, not because her parents were bad people. They loved her deeply, but that generation often expressed love through sacrifice rather than conversation. Years later, while watching Arav freely talk about his feelings, Savitri noticed something she never had as a child: comfort. The comfort of knowing mistakes would not automatically lead to fear. One weekend, something happened that changed her perspective further. Arif came home upset after losing a race at school. He threw his bag aside and sat quietly. Now, years ago, the common response might have been, "It's okay, try harder next time." Practical, simple. But Meera sat beside him and asked, "Do you want advice or do you want me to listen first?" And honestly, even Savitri looked surprised by that question. Arav thought for a moment, then said, "I just want someone to listen." For the next 10 minutes, he talked about disappointment, about feeling embarrassed, about wanting to win. And after talking, he looked lighter. Nothing had changed externally. He still lost the race, but emotionally, he felt understood. That evening, while having tea, Savitri quietly said, "You know, we never talked like this when I was raising children." Meera smiled. "You did the best you knew, Ma." Savitri nodded. "And maybe you're doing the best you know." Both women smiled because suddenly the conversation wasn't about right versus wrong anymore. It was about learning. You see, every generation improves on something. Traditional parenting taught responsibility, respect, resilience. Gentle parenting tries to add emotional awareness, communication, connection. Maybe the goal isn't choosing one side completely. Maybe the goal is taking the best from both: strong boundaries and warm relationships, discipline and understanding, respect for elders and respect for children's emotions. Because children don't just need rules and they don't just need freedom, they need guidance, and guidance works best when it comes with connection. Years later, Araf probably won't remember every toy he received or every cartoon he watched, but he'll remember how people made him feel. He'll remember whether home felt safe, whether mistakes felt survivable, whether someone listened. And honestly, those memories often shape people far more than we realize. So tell me, my dear listeners, how were you raised? Do you see differences between traditional parenting and today's parenting styles? And if you're a parent, what's one thing from your childhood that you want to continue and one thing you want to change? If this story felt relatable, share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, remember this: every generation is trying to give children something they themselves wished they had received.